Hello, everyone. Hope I'm audible enough. So I'm Farha Zaki, the president of Ladies Wings of Muslim Majlis, University of Sri Jayawardhanapura. So there were several people had asked the question like, why are we doing this program actually? We are doing this because we want to like bring out the people who have stereotype ideas and thoughts. Like we want to help them to come out of that frame which they have been like constrained of. So then this is a program which is exclusively for ladies, and we will be doing this in every 2 months time, inviting ladies who have come to a certain position in their life and who have achieved their dreams, and also who are going for their dreams actually. So then today for this first session we have like invited one of the great personalities. Even I like her a lot because I have seen how she actually acts in the social media platform and everything. She's a social activist and an advocate for marginalized and vulnerable families, and co-founder of Care Station, which is an NGO. And she has been working with children and families of various settings for nearly 13 years. And she's a good mother, as well as I'm pretty sure she's a good wife and also a good sister as well. So then she has also extensive knowledge on this, offering like advice, support for various people who have gone through in bitter experiences in their life actually. And also something important about this passionate lady was bestowed the coveted and outstanding young persons of Sri Lanka award by the Junior Chamber International. So in recognition of her contribution towards children, then the world peace and human rights. So I warmly welcome Ms. Razni Razik for this session, and thank you very much for accepting my request to join us. And like we have several questions to discuss throughout, because I found people have lots of problems in their life. So we will try our level best to reach out everything within this 1.5 or 1 hour time. So before everything, like I know if someone asked me about who is Razni Razik, I would say she's a social activist and a good personality, a very young, passionate lady who goes for her dreams. But there's a saying that there's no other person who would know about you better than you. So what would you say about, if I ask you the question, who is Razni Razik, what will be your opinion about him? You will start off with that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Farha, for that very kind introduction. And Assalamu alaikum and good evening to everyone who is present in this session. So thank you so much for inviting me as well. It's an honor to be here and talking to you all about my journey. If you ask who I am, I'm a very simple girl from a very simple small village from Gampala, and who had a fueling passion to make a difference in the world, I would say. So that is what has that passion that I had is what has brought me so far, and what keeps me going in this field. Yeah, I think the rest you have about my qualification achievements that came along the way you mentioned. So they have all been a result of the work that has been carried out over 13 years, but none of this was planned or that came. These things were just a stepping stone. You know, all the awards, the accolades, and the praises and everything that I have received have always been has always served as a stepping stone to reach out to more people in need, because so my goal has always been to inspire other young girls, especially the young Muslim girls like myself, to follow their passions and to give back to the society and see how rewarding and fun it can be.
Yeah, there are many people like want to know about this NGO as well. This is not like a promotion of your NGO, but like people might think in that way. That's what I'm saying. Like, but still there are people who like to join in non-governmental organizations, but the society actually stops them. Then like there was a question like I went through like what activities you usually do in this NGO, and like being a Muslim lady, like that should have been pretty much hard to come to this position, I mean. So what is this NGO, and like something about it for us?
Yeah, so that's a question I often get, and I often find it hard to explain actually, because to say how I got this far, and the challenges and the journey, it was like I took everything as it came. So definitely it has been a big challenge, because social work is something that does not give back does not have any monetary value, right? So you don't get back a salary, you don't get back any money. So therefore, most of our families, especially I think the parents, are not very keen on supporting their children in pursuing a field in this field. So I faced those challenges. So for me, growing up, I was very fond of children, right? I've always thought that I've always loved children so much. So it was always if those who have seen my interviews would know that I always mention this, that I always volunteer myself to babysit my cousins, and even when I played with my from childhood, I would always take the lead role and be the mother, the mother figure, and they'll be my children when we play. So it's always been that way. So growing up, I wanted to do something that would help children in the field of children, and I chose child psychology for my higher education. So my mother is a lawyer, my father is an engineer, my brother is also a lawyer. So you can imagine that the pressure that I also had so much pressure to follow a field similar, maybe a doctor, a lawyer, or some field that would that I could be sustain myself later on and be an independent lady. So I think there was a lot of restrictions that came my way, but I was very adamant about wanting to follow something related to children. So I looked for degrees in child psychology. But at the time, there weren't any institution in Kandy where I could follow the degree in child psychology. So therefore, where I could complete the degree here in this country with the psychology, because at that time there was not much scope given for psychology. It's only psychology was the importance of the psychology and counseling came only after the tsunami happened. So before that, it was like not many people gave much importance to it, and there was not much scope in our country. So I still went on to follow child psychology, and then I went on to follow all the courses on early childhood education and all the courses I could get my hands on that were related to children. And later I went on to work as a special needs teacher at the Doctors Welfare Society in Kandy Hospital, and there that is where my first how I started my career. And so much against everyone's wishes, that I followed I still was strong on wanting to follow my passion for serving for children. Yes, so for 3 years, then suddenly I happened to visit a center for street children to meet a friend of mine. I just wanted to drop some stuff off to her, and that visit is what changed my life entirely. So then hearing their sad plight that day, the things that the street children went through, I resigned my job. And I started volunteering at the center. Actually, my parents were not knowledgeable about that. For 3 years, I went on to volunteering at the center for Center for Street Children, and it actually no one knew about it. But I knew what I was doing was right, and this is what I wanted to do, and that I had found this is what I had wanted to do all along, and this was my purpose in life, and I was very steadfast in that belief. And so when it came to finding a partner for me, that is when I knew that I had to find somebody who would support, who would realize my dreams, and who would support me to follow my dreams and passion. So in every partner that I met, I was very clear. I clearly communicated what I wanted to do in life. So yeah, so that brought in a lot of, like, that is when my parents came to know that, I was actually, this is what I have been doing. I've been into volunteering and receiving care stations. So the support that it's definitely important that you all communicate your passion with your family members, with your parents, and with your partners. If you are going to get married, it's very important that you all speak out about your passions, and then go with your goal.
Yeah, so now even I have like felt this thing in my mind. If it is a girl, usually like until they get married, they have to like be under their parents or siblings. Always they are being controlled, and once they get married, they are being controlled by their husband. Even sometimes there are situations where we would openly talk to even to the partner we are going to get married that we want to do this, but once we get married, things might change. Even we have seen how people come across in that way. So is this society actually yeah, true that it is a male dominant society? So but is it only available for the male to become a role model? Can't these women become role models in life? And also, if women could be role models, then they are automatically becoming controlled by like males in the society. So how to face these things in the life? Because sometimes it may be too late. You find out your husband or your father, your siblings won't let you do anything, but that becomes like a stress for the child, a girl especially. So how to overcome it?
I think in most cases I do get this a lot. I get lots of messages from sisters. Like, if you see, 99, we have about 268 volunteers with the care station, registered members there. So 99% of them happen to be girls, Muslim girls from all around the country. So it's like I get a lot because they have so much passion in them to serve, and they really want to give back. If you see in our families also, it's always the women who are organizing gatherings, get-togethers, parties, family gatherings, let it be for Eid, for functions, for anything. It is the women who take the leadership and, make everything and bring people together. So they are doing that, and they have that potential. But going out and doing that, yes, they are, I would say, restricted, because the community that we come from, it also happens is such. And also it happens that the girls don't actually come out of that circle, because they are they don't there are restrictions. There were restrictions for me as well. I knew that my parents will not approve of me quitting my career, me quitting my education and all that, and wanting to volunteer, because I was sent to the UK to do my higher studies. But meantime, my thoughts were with the children who were here at the Center for Street Kids. So I quit. I came back. I came back and I started volunteering there again. So I knew that my parents will not approve of this. So I made it clear. I made it a point to see that I do not cross the guidelines that they have given us, to do within those limits. There were lots of restrictions, like, when you're a young Muslim girl, especially, you have this rule: you have to come back at this time, you cannot go to these places, you shouldn't be out for so long, so you shouldn't be interacting with these men. And because it's mostly the fear of what the outside world would say about you, and how it would impact later on when you're looking for a prospective groom, that it would affect your reputation. So that is the fear that I think all our parents have. So therefore I made it a point, I knew that this was the limit I had, like from 9 to 3 or 9 to 5, and I had to be back by this time. And I made sure that my conduct and my behavior and my the places I visited, or anything that I did will not have an impact or put my parents' reputation or my reputation in harm's way. So that is where I drew the line, and I knew since I'm doing it in this circle, it's nothing wrong. But I still knew my parents will not approve of me going to a home. So therefore, I hid it from them for as long as I could until my marriage was fixed. So that is also one reason why I got why I was very adamant about marrying somebody who would be passionate, because there were so many proposals that came. And the moment I told them that, I wanted to start an care home, child care home, and I wanted to run an NGO, and this was my dream. Many people actually, some of them even laughed it off. They actually thought of it as a wishful thinking. Oh yes, you can do that because there are so many people who would come home, asking for help. You could help them. You could do something for your neighbors, for your friends, and there's always that. That was it. But I wanted to do more. So many proposals were called off, and it really did not make the family members very happy. But I knew one way that I would be happy with my marriage would be only if I could also follow my passion along with it. So you have to communicate when you choose your partners, you have to communicate it prior that this is what you want to do. So after you get married, maybe situations change, right? So even if I want to, now that I'm a mother, I do have some sacrifices that I have to make, with my passion and my dream, but I still keep it going. But it won't always be the same. So according to the situation that arises, you need to have a good bond, a good understanding with your spouses, with your family members, and be able to this thing. The most thing is the girls, they get mad. This question that you brought up is what I get from the girls, is that yes, the proper, I want to do this, but my husband's not allowing, or like they get married to the person their parents ask them to, and then later on they want to do something and they are not happy. So this happens because they have not communicated with their spouses prior to getting married. So share your dreams and be very vocal about what you all want to do, and have a goal for yourself and work towards it. And along the way, whatever problems that come, try to come to a mutual understanding, like, okay, so these are the barriers, these are the this is what I can do. If I cannot go out and do a service, I will still do while I'm there are so many opportunities and ways you could still do what you do while being at home.
Yeah, now like when coming to education, actually, even you have done child psychology that you wanted to do it. But when it comes for girls, not everyone could do what they like to do. So like be it a marriage, be it education or whatever it is, mostly girls have to do what their parents expect to do. So one of the registered participants had asked a question like, she wants to go for her goal, for her dream. So for that, she wants to do mathematics for her A-levels. But her parents don't like her to do that. And also there was another point where I met one particular person in my life. She was saying that her parents want her to go for the university, definitely. That should definitely be a state university. And the main reason is like the society. Okay, that means those parents want their children to go for the state university because the society will like humiliate or ignore them. That is the main reason. So like mostly the parents try to achieve their dreams through their children. So be it a boy or girl, that happens, but especially the restriction is more for girls. So how can they make these decisions in life, especially when their parents are involved in making their decisions?
Yeah, so I think the parents always want what's best for your child, right? So definitely, if they are saying that, I'm sure they have reasons to say what they do. So initially I always wanted to be a heart surgeon. So I was really good in that bio and all that. So my dream was also to be a heart surgeon initially. But my parents were very much against it because you had to study for many years, and then it was quite challenging, and my parents were not supportive at all in that field, or me doing science for a fact. So I understood the reasons that they gave as well, and I understood why they are saying what they're saying. And you try to, in some way, you have to compromise to what they're saying, and also find something that in similarly that you would like to do. If you ask them for the options that they have given you, and try to see what you can find fits you best within that. If you are unable to convince your parents, the first thing would be try to speak to your parents and say, because even if you get through state university, even if you get through this degree, you will never be happy working in this field. If you are not happy working in this field, if you are not happy with the work you do, you definitely cannot sustain in that field, and or have that motivation to go up in that field or to make a name for yourself, right? So that is very important, that you make yourself very clear to them. And or the first thing would be to ask them for the options and see why they are saying what they're saying. And if you still want to do what you want to do, then you have to find ways, because only understand your parents. So you have to find ways that you can make them understand which field you want to go in for. So do not just choose anything, work, let it be education or let it be your studies, just because you see somebody successful in that field, or just because it's something that you think you can. You need to be confident in that decision you're making, and you need to have a clear goal on where if you want to see yourself in a couple of years. Let it be when it comes to marriage, let it be when it comes to, you have to see whether you are compatible, whether you can see yourself with this person, or you can see yourself doing this work that education, it's many years, right? Degree, you have to study for many years in that field, and it's just not for the name sake, right? You can get a degree, but then you have to see whether you can picture yourself doing the work that you will be doing for later as well. So, and it is up to you to decide whether there are other options that would work best for you, or whether whether you are able to find ways to convince your parents to do what you want to do.
Okay, so usually now you might have come across several people, and also I heard that about you, like you are a person who brings solutions for people who have faced bitter experiences. So sometimes people would reach out us also saying, I have this problem in my life, I have that problem, but sometimes we fail to give them a proper answer. Sometimes they become dissatisfied. So like when making decisions and when giving advices, like basically what type of criteria you would think of, and like how would you reach the people in that way?
So reality is often very cruel and unsatisfying, right? And especially in this field, it's a very emotionally draining job, because people always reach out to you with their problems, and the problems cannot be generalized, because each person's plight is different to the other, right? So the first thing is to be a good listener. You have to attentively listen to what the other person is saying, and most importantly, put yourself in their shoes. You'll never understand what that other person is going through unless you put yourself in that situation and think, if you were in this situation, what are the options you have, and what are the ways that you would in what ways would you be trying to get out of this situation. And so that way, and listen and put yourself in that person's shoes and try to provide the advice. And if you do not know what the right thing to say, please don't say it. Just direct them to professionals, direct them to people whom you think would actually be able to help. Because if you are not knowledge in what you want, in what they're going through, and in how you want to help, you can, and if you are giving it, the advice that you give can be very detrimental to their lives. Because if you give the wrong advice just because you want to say something and just because you want to give that advice to that person, and it's not going to help, but it can also put them in harm's way, right? So you have to be an attentive listener and try to direct them to people who may be able to help them. And also please also do that only with their consent, and please maintain confidentiality. If a person comes and confides in you, it's an amana, it's a secret, it's a trust that they have placed in you. So keep it as a secret, and unless that person wants you to talk to or get involved or talk to anybody. So be very careful in the advices that you give, and to know what advice to give, you definitely have to put yourself in their place.
Yeah, so as a girl or as a, like, let's say as a lady, like how could we find ways to earn money or like that, because there are limited sectors for girls, for ladies especially. So like how could we reach in that particular way in the cooperative world actually?
Yeah, so that I think is now most of the young girls, most of the Muslim girls, and especially most of the, if you see all the online businesses now, it's majority happen to be our young girls who are trying to do something their life, not also who are like very young, who are still students, who are still schooling, right? Even we have volunteers who are still who are very young, from 8-year-olds to 12-year-olds. So, and also if you see the online businesses that most of are run by all women, mothers, young girls, students who are doing it remotely. So even we do not have our organization does not have a head office or an office. We are all working remotely. We are 268 members who are working remotely from all around the island, from Jaffna, from Trinco. We have never met, we have never seen each other, but we have helped so many people together, right? So that is what we all can do when we come together as a community. You have to look out for opportunities. When I started, yeah, so
Yeah, madam, you can continue.
okay, so when I started as a child, when I started as an early childhood educator, or in this field, when I wanted to follow a field in social work, there were no opportunities for me. I'm from Gampala and I studied and worked in Kandy, right? So at the time there were not many opportunities for me to join an NGO. There weren't any NGOs I knew of, and it was a very challenging task to get into care homes as well and volunteer. Right?
Azan, it seems. Shall we like have a 5 minutes break?
Sure.
Yeah.
You can start with your sibling, trying to speak to them, or you can speak to at least one of the parents and try to convince them, or you could write a letter to your parents. That it always works. Honestly, it works, because end of the day, every parent wants what's best for their child, right? So you can write lengthy letter to your parents and leave it. I know it has worked for me, and I know it has worked for so many others as well. So I think that you have to find ways how you can communicate with your family, because each family is different. You have to, if you have to think to yourself, if you don't make that move, if you don't talk to them now, you'll never get another opportunity to talk, or it can be too late for you to talk to them, and later you're going to regret not having spoken.
Yeah, madam. And also there's a question like now if we take the society, as I mentioned earlier, that's male dominant. Now you have met several people, ladies, small children, even males could be. So is that only girls or this female people in the society face problems? And this because people have a kind of question that male try to actually underestimate women or try to dominate the women. Is it true? Or if it's true, then why do men actually do so? Because I mean, like, even you might have, sometimes you might have an exact answer for that, sometimes you might not, but with the experiences that you have had, what is your point of view about that?
Yeah. I always get asked, being a young Muslim girl, in a field dominated by men, how do you manage to uh, do what you do? I get that a lot. But honestly, I don't think I've experienced any dominance over me or the work I do because I never um, gave any importance to it. I was set in my goal and it was to help people in need, right? So it can be people from it's from people from all walks of life. And even in the corporate world, I knew I did my work. I made sure that I did my work, uh, eh, you know, as it should be. So there's nobody who can, pick on me. And you have to be strong and confident because you can't let other people, um, you know, mm, put you down. The moment you let somebody, only you, the next person will get the confidence to step on you or to try to dominate you only if you give them the opportunity to. So once you know where you, when you are strong headed and when you know that, this is what you want to do. I'm not saying to be like a rebel and, be like the warrior girl and all that. But I'm saying just be confident in what you or what you know in what you do and do it right. So then you wouldn't have that. Don't let that. Uh, that will always be there. Patriarchy and that bureaucracy in the workplace and all that. The politics is there in every field. You might think that charity is something that is so noble, you helping people, but charity organizations is one of the most challenging ones. I feel it is to work in because everyone is so competitive, right? And there's more politics in charity than you would see in the corporate world. In the corporate world, you understand people are trying to step you down and put you down to go up the ladder, for promotions, for better salary. That's why they do, even if you are really nice, even if they like you really, and even if no matter how good you are, sometimes it may be your best friend who's a colleague who will, turn their back against you, for a better place, a better position in life. So you understand their motive, right? But in charity, it's different. It's like you see so much politics and you think like, why are people being so mm, mm, so this thing negative and so this crude about the politics, like politics in charity, like in charity work. Why is there politics? But it is there. It will be there. In any field that you go out to, for any woman, I think it's more for us. But I would say every woman goes through it. But you have to be strong in your goal, in your passion, and in the workplace that you do, and not let others put you down. You have to keep your head strong.
So now, as you mentioned, not to let others to put us down, but usually girls are too emotional, and obviously even if we tell something, a small word, even that might hurt or that might affect in an unexpected way. So when it comes to stress, when it comes to something really hurting, so how could a person actually face those things, and how to drift the mind from that thing, actually, that stress or anxiety?
I completely understand. I think I cry every night. I don't think there's anybody more emotional than me because I'm a very emotional person, right? So every time a person comes and shares their reaches out to me, I'm the first person to cry. hearing their stories, right? So that is also what has fueled me to do what I do, like to help more people, right? So that is one of my strengths is, so you cry it out. There's nothing wrong in that. You let your emotions out. Don't have it bottled up and let it fester inside. Talk to a friend, talk to a person that you know whom you could confide in, share your sorrows, and be careful whom you share with as well. Make sure you could do not share your problems with everybody. Share with people whom you can trust and people whom you think you can help, and you let out your emotions. It's completely all right. You have to cry it out. Unless if you keep it bottled up inside, it's only not going to help you. It's going to your self-esteem is going to fall low, and you're going to feel really bad about yourself, and you won't have the confidence to go back and do your job. So if you have to know that if somebody's saying something hurtful, it there's some probably that person didn't you can first speak to that person about it directly, and also see what made him or she or whoever say that. Or you have to address it with the person whom you have who has hurt you firstly, and you have to make it clear that they what they said has hurt you. So the thing is, we are very good at taking all the burden. We are very good at absorbing everything that other people have to take it out on us. So we become like the sponge. We absorb everything and we drown in it, right? So that shouldn't be. Everybody, each of y'all should make your voices heard. You'll need to communicate. You'll need to speak out when there's something wrong happening. And if you do not have the courage to speak out, find ways to communicate that to the other person. Tell your friend who knows that person that, this person has hurt you. If you do not have the courage to talk to that person, but try to resolve the problems. And if you are hurting within yourself, you have to let it out, cry it out, put out your emotions, and face the other day with confidence.
Yeah, ma'am, that's true. And also there are two questions asked from participants. The first is, some people are afraid to approach, sorry, I mistake the question. Some people are afraid to come forward to the society because they have a lot of negative thoughts. How can they defeat that, and how can they aspire those goals and everything in their life?
Yeah, so negative thoughts is something that we ourselves build it in us, right? Before we try to do something, every one of us have that question, will I succeed? Is this right thing to do? Can we do this? So all those questions, you will doubt yourself. If you are doubting yourself, it's normal to doubt yourself when you are trying to start something new, but you have to also see what you want to do, how you want to go with. Is that what you want to do? Like, if it's something, a goal, a dream, a job, education, study, or anything like that you want to do, then you have to see how you are going to achieve it. And if you are going to achieve it, you have to first be confident within yourself to do it, right? So you have to think to yourself that you can do it, and first take one step at a time. Because I never saw, when I started Care Station, I never wanted to be a fully fledged organization. No, when I started, I just wanted to help people. I just wanted to volunteer. The first step towards volunteering was to connect myself to the orphanages, or the elderly care homes, or the Center for Street Kids. There were no opportunities for me to go beyond that because I couldn't find any NGOs to work with. I made opportunities to myself. I went in search of people whom I could help. There are people in your neighborhood, in the streets you could help. I started small. Then I started meeting people who were in the similar field. Then I connected with a person, partnered with a person who also wanted to do this. And then a few people got to know about it, more wanted to join, and we wanted to help more people. And today we are what we are because that is how this has grown. So don't think of the whether it will be successful, whether it will be, if you are confident in what you want to do, take the first step. Take the first step to do it. The rest will fall in place.
Since you spoke about care station, I would also like know how to join care station, because that was also a question from some people. Like, because they want to go for a association where they can work confidently. So I think they might have found this place as a confident place. So how to join the care station if they prefer to?
So to give you a brief about Care Station is a non-profit, non-political, non-religious organization working towards community development and social welfare. So we provide open sponsorship, education scholarship, refugee assistance, and self-empowerment projects for widows and women-headed families, disaster relief, and also several other projects. So whoever reaches out seeking support, we try to provide the best solution for them, to provide long-term sustainable solutions, right? So they can come out of the poverty cycle. So, and we are all working remotely. So we get requests from Jaffna, we get cases reported from all over the country, right? So then we have volunteers from all over the country as well. So when we have a case from Jaffna, we gather the volunteers who are around that area, and we arrange for them to visit the family and see the family, speak to the family, and get back to us on what help they need. Right? When they get back to us with the help that they require, we try to provide the help what they need through them.
So then someone needs to join, how the things should.
So if there's anyone who would like to join, you can drop us a message on our Care Station platform. So we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, we are on LinkedIn, we are on YouTube, we are on all the platforms, on all social media platforms. So you can reach out to us through our platforms, and we will share the link with you. So we have a procedure of taking in volunteers. So they have to register. We have a form to be filled, certain documents to be submitted, and then we will have an interview with the volunteer, and then they will be taken as a member of Care Station. And when the need arises, we will reach out to them. If there is a project in their area, we will reach out to them and give them the roles to carry out.
Yeah, there's a question asked, that is, how was you taken on this abstract timeline that society has created for women? When the time comes, they say that, okay, this time in this age you have to get married, in this age you have to study. So how did you overcome that thing, and like what advice would you give for the girls over there, for anyone who is into it?
I think that varies for each individual, right? So some parents are very open, and they allow you to pursue your studies and get married when you're ready. So some parents say, no, you have to get married at this age, this is the time to study. You cannot, or you have to stop your education because you're overly educated, and your prospective grooms, it might be hard to find a groom for you. So all these questions do rise up. So it all ends up about what you want to do, right? It's your life and it's your future, and it's very important that you have a proper goal of what you want to do. So for me, my parents have been proposing since I was 18. Maybe I got married at 28. Because I didn't find the right partner. So it was very challenging. Actually, it was very, very challenging for me, because the pressure was so immense, not only from my immediate family members, but from all my relatives, from the people whom you don't know, because they're all like, then they try to emotionally blackmail you into getting married. Okay, so you're getting so old, no one is going to get you married, your parents are getting old. So all this is something that is very common in our community, within, that we girls face. But I was very adamant, I was so adamant that I will only marry somebody who would support my work. So every proposal that came, like I said, I made it clear that I was okay to, be flexible, that, that you can't have everything you want. And it's not going to be easy managing everything together, right? But you need to know where your priorities are. what you prioritize. Are you going to prioritize your family, or you have this dream, and do you think you can manage both together? If you are going to manage both together, how are you going to manage both together? So I made it clear. I spoke about this to my husband also. So it was only one thing that he requested from me, that is, leave the weekends for me, for family. So I make sure that, weekends that we spend together as a family, right? So that was one condition that he brought in, which I was willing to, uh, compromise and work together, because it made sense. Because at that time I was working weekends as well. I was getting a good salary, a good job, and I was working weekends as well. But then he told me, okay, you can do this, but allocate the weekend for family. So I gave up on that. I was lecturing, and then I gave up on that two things, because I knew, okay, you have to compromise somewhere, right? But I have all the other 5 days to devote to follow my passion. So you have to find ways that you can try to balance both, and if you are going to be like, okay, this is what I want, this is how I want it, either you come or go, it's not going to work, right? So it definitely is going to put a lot of people in not happy, like the family you're getting into, or your family.
Yeah, so now for this much time we were like advising for young ladies, we were giving opinions for them. So now most probably the parents also might listening for us. So what advice would you give for them? Because now after listening for all the questions, like you might having a like rough idea these types of questions only people are having, problems only people are having, especially young ladies. So what advice would you give for the parents actually?
Parents, I would say, please support your children's dream. Believe in your children's dream. Only if you believe, it will give them the confidence to do what they want to do. No matter how much I was going out, I was doing so much, but I was so that you felt that void in you. No matter how much you achieve in life, if your parents are not happy, if you don't get their blessing, you feel it. It doesn't give you the motivation to reach any greater heights. So therefore, have confidence in your child's dreams, and support them and encourage them to do what they want to do. And especially if it's in social work, especially in social work, I would say, because that is something that not many, although everyone is doing it, no one is actually doing it in a big scale. Like in the mainstream media, no one is actually doing it. All my colleagues or in the other members from other organizations happen to be men, right? And so it's like not many people are taking that leadership role, because they are not getting any monetary return, right? So but we have to understand that as a Muslim girl, that charity is an inherent part for every Muslim, right? In every Muslim, because Quran emphasizes so much on speaking up on behalf of the oppressed and helping the orphans and giving in charity, right? So we all have to do our part to to help those in need, and to reap the rewards in the hereafter, inshallah. So that is the biggest reward of all, right? So that should be our ultimate goal, and everything that we are doing for now. So just believe in what you listen to what their dreams are, what their passions are. Guide them, give them the guidance, and let them go. Be there for them when they need you. And yeah, that is what I always say to all the parents.
Yeah, there's a question asked. Some people are criticized by our society. How can we overcome that challenge? So this was earlier asked, but like I would like to specify on that especially. And also I would like to add something for that. That is now usually now certain Muslim girls would actually have the idea, I want to do this. I want to go against, like be adamant for my benefit as you did for your benefit. So in that way, but same people from the same category, even might be our own friends, Muslim friends, will always look at in a very negative attitude towards us, and also sometimes would marginalize us, won't always talk to us, would always say she's a different type of person. must not move with her. So that is also like a negative impact from the society. So that also stops us to go for our dreams actually. But we still, in our mind, we think that I want to go for it, I want to strive for it. That is also a kind of stressing. So how to overcome these criticisms actually that comes not from you, from the outer world actually?
It's how you see it. For me, I think it's how you see it, criticism coming from a friend, a good friend, or it can be anybody close to you who knows you well. You need to see like whether they are making actually sense, whether it's going to help you, whether what they're saying is going to help you in any way, whether they are meaning well for you, right? And because it's often like when you are doing well, it's often your enemies are the ones who's closest to you, right? And envy and jealousy is like quite a common trait among women, right? When you put lots of women together, it's very hard to work in that setting, right? So it's about like how you take it up on yourself. Are you going to let criticism hold you back, or are you going to see why, if there is anything that's good for you in it, you take it, and if you think that what they're saying has something to it, you try to change yourself for the better and move forward. And you can I know that when you have a goal, when you're steadfast in your goal, people consider you a rebellious child, you are disobedient, and you are not decent, or not not a child that we have to associate with. But the very people who are criticizing you now will come to you later, when you are in that position that you have got yourself into. So when I started, I had so many people who had quite criticized a lot. And I know this, so there are people who do still. But then again, you can't let that deter you from your goal, because your motive is to help people. And that is how I think to myself. So what others think about me, if I'm doing right by the religion, if I'm doing right by my parents, if my family is happy, and if my husband and my children are cared for, and nothing else should be a problem. Nothing what others say shouldn't be you, because people will never stop talking. Even when you are in the highest position you can get, they will still criticize, right? Don't let criticism deter your dream. So take what the positive things that constructive criticism, whatever that they say, you think you can learn from, that you can just make yourself better. Do take them and try to make yourself better and move. So when I started, I had lots of criticism from my teammates, especially also, that I was never a team player. So I was like always on my own, so I didn't understand about team effort. So today we are like a close-knit family. If I had that ego to, okay, no, y'all don't know, so y'all, y'all should be removed from the team, because my goal is this and y'all are being so negative about it, then no. But I knew myself that yes, I wasn't a team player. I wasn't I wasn't actually a friendly person, because I grew up alone, and my parents were quite strict, so I didn't have that exposure to have friends, to go out with friends. I was never allowed. So those things had, molded me into a very introverted person. So I wasn't actually good at making friends. So now I have like a very close-knit family, because I did take those comments and criticisms positively and went forward in my journey. So that is what you should also do. I think that is what has worked for me.
Yeah, and there's one more question, like asked from a participant. Now, even that we also come across such questions, like now when we make a decision, sometimes we are afraid. Sometimes we would think, okay, if we do this, we will reach into a better position. In the meantime, we will have the idea like, okay, if we do the same thing, that will reach out for us to a better thing, also could reach us to a very something worst in our life. That means a dilemma between two things, whether to do this or not. So then how to make the decision in that way?
Weigh your scale and see, what are the barriers you think that will hold you back from getting there, what are the negative, what are the positives and the negatives, you know, the pros and the cons, and what's weighing, what weighs the most, right? And then you have to make the decision what you want to do. Because if you know that, you know, this is going to be very difficult, right? If you are going to be, you know, like you say, if it's something that you want to follow, and you know that your husband's never ever, or your family is never ever going to be okay with that, and you still want to go with it, then you need to see, like, you are going to risk your family there, right? So what's more important to you? Where do you prioritize yourself, you know? Or let it be like with the family thing and your this thing. You have to see, okay, if you go completely against them, you know, and if they are not going to be very happy at all with what you're going to do, you still want to go ahead and away from their what they want you to do. And are you going to are you okay with that, like, you know, with these things? So you have to see where you prioritize yourself in that scale, and what to prioritize the most.
Yeah, ma'am, it's so wonderful to have you here. And also, like, it's almost 8, and as promised, then people might have several questions to ask from you, but because of the time constraint, we can't actually reach out all the questions. But if they want to reach you personally, I mean, without coming through your association, how could they reach you actually?
On my social media platforms, on Instagram or on Facebook. You can always drop me a message. I may not respond right away. I am a very slow I'm a very poor texter, because mostly I get quite a lot of messages on my social media platforms every single day, mostly requesting for support, requesting for help, and all that. So that is why I ask anything related to charity, anything related to my organization, to message on our official care station pages. Anything that is related to your personal life, or anything that you need advice for, anything that you need help for, uh, uh, apart from the work that we do from care station, yeah, you can always reach out to me on my Instagram account or on my Facebook account, and I would be very glad to help you out. But I may not reply right away, but I definitely will.
Okay, adding to
Inshallah.
that, one more small question, like when we make decisions, like should we ask from experienced person, or should we ask from the same question from ourselves when we make decisions?
So it's like this. You can, when you make decisions, if it is something that you want to do, if it's with education that you want to follow, that you want to make decision, you can ask. You definitely have to ask people who have done it, right? To know more about what you are in it for, like what you are getting yourself into. So you have to ask people who have done this, who have done this, who have followed the same field, and also eventually the final decision is going to be yours. You have to make that final decision for yourself, but you have to also, it's always best to ask people who you think can help, because seeking support, seeking help, it shouldn't be a taboo at all, and it shouldn't be something that you know, you should feel not confident to ask. You can always speak to people and get their ideas as well, and eventually the decision to make will be on you.
Okay, thank you very much, madam, for joining us. And it was really good to have you with us. And if someone has any type of questions, they can reach out to her at any moment. She will like bring the best solutions for you all. And thank you very much once again for joining with us. Is there anything you want to say, like for finally, like for everyone who are here?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me in this conversation today. I cannot see all of you, and I do not know all of you. I may not know all of you personally, but please do drop a message to say that you were here. Share your reviews about this program, whatever the good, the negative, the criticisms, and everything that you think. So I am still learning. I could better myself as well, and hope whatever I said, I could only speak from whatever knowledge, experience that I have, and that is what I have done. So I hope I made I shared some meaningful points for you that actually helped y'all. So I'm always there to all of you, to if you need just somebody to listen to what you're going through and to help you also through your problems. So thank you so much for having
Thank you
me,
again.
Farha.
Yeah, thank you again. And we will share a Google form, like a feedback form. Please take few minutes in your WhatsApp groups. We might share it. So take few minutes and then fill it. And thank you very much for joining us. Once again, thank you very much, Ms. Rajni Razik, for like sparing your valuable time. And once I asked, you were straight away, okay, we will do it, Farah. That was your reply. And thank you very much once again. And again, with that note, we will wind up for today's session. Hoping to meet you all with another session, inshallah, in 2 months' time with another great personality. Thank you again.